Alright guys, welcome to RC Mojo. This week we're going to start adding some weight to the front of the TRX-4. From factory, the centre of gravity isn't all that far forward of the centre of the truck, which for driving over obstacles on flat ground works really well. It's actually quite amazing how well it gets over some things. However, as soon as you start going up some really steep hills, it doesn't take that much, just a small tree root to tip it past the point of no return. If you're lucky, it will stand up on the back wheels and the spare, but usually it will topple right over and cartwheel all the way down. We're going to start small with these MFR Portal covers. I partly bought them due to the weight, and partly because I really like machine parts from small businesses. They're often just that little bit nicer than the lower cost options. After the shipping, tax and handling fees, they were a bit expensive, but they do look very nice. Also in the postal bag were some nice decals, well thought out with black and white ones to work on different coloured bodies. Installing them is simple enough. First the body comes off. Now you could probably manage with it on, but it's going to be easier just to remove it. Flip the chassis upside down and remove the wheels. If it's the first time they've come off, the nuts might be very tight. I think Traxxas must have used a small breaker bar to do them up. Since both the portal covers are identical, we'll fit the one on this side and edit the other one in after that. Right then, before we can get the plastic cover off, we'll need to remove the hex from the stub axle. Rather than a loose pin and a plastic hex you get on a lot of models, it's a metal hex with a screw pin to lock it in place. As long as you don't over-tighten the wheel nut and crack something, it's going to last a very long time. Next, we've got a load of cap head screws to remove. There's 2 on the outside of the cover and 6 on the inside. The outside ones are easy to get at and come out with no problems. The inside ones can be a bit tricky to get a straight cut Allen key to. A 2mm ball-ended key really makes things a lot easier. You can tilt the key so you can cleanly turn it without colliding with the axle. With all the screws out, hold the stub axle in the inner housing and wiggle the portal cover free and slide it off. Inside we find 2 bearings that we're going to need to reuse and a large amount of grease. The teeth are nicely covered too, and I can't really see any need to top it up. However, there have been reports of dry portals and even an instance of a missing bearing. So even if you're not changing the covers, you might want to have a quick look in yours just to check them out. Now we've got both the bearings on the shaft ends, we can offer up the MFR cover. As we slide it on, we need to wiggle it a little bit just to get the bearings to sit nicely in the metal. If you force it with a bad alignment, you could cause some damage. The Traxxas screws we removed earlier can go back in now. We want them to be just ever so slightly loose initially, then we can go around and nip them all up in the classic cross pattern. Top, bottom, left, right, and so on. Lastly, we need to refit the hex and the screw pin, which of course fit perfectly. And there we have one side fitted, and I do believe it's a perfect fit. There's no sharp edges or overhangs, the screws all went straight in, so there's no alignment issues. 10 out of 10. I'll get on with the other side and edit it in, like so. It went on just as easily as the first. Great stuff. I suppose we should have a nice close-up before we put the wheels back on. Looks rather nice, I think. Even the nice even machine marks on the outer face with the MFR logo look quite pleasing. I don't have a set of accurate scales handy, so I can't weigh them. Mine are in an unmarked white box that I've not seen in over a year. They're around somewhere, but I'm just not exactly sure where. However, I'll stick a link in the description to a thread on the Traxxas forum, where a member has weighed them and the stock Traxxas ones. The wheels, of course, go back on without any fuss. The covers are almost the same shape as the plastic ones, so there's nothing sticking out to get in the way. When we do up the nuts, we don't need to do them up as tight as Traxxas. As long as they're nicely seated and the nuts nipped up, it's going to work just fine. Looking through the wheel in this light, there's not much to give away the new brass part. You can just about see the odd flick of the brass colour, but it's really too dark to see. I reckon outside on a bright day they might be a little bit more visible, but unless you knew they were there, you'd never know. And there we go then, the body can go back on and we're ready to go. This is only the first step in adding more weight to the front. I'm browsing for some other bits to add even more. The MFR brass portal covers will do for now. So as always, thanks for watching, like if you liked, and by all means subscribe if you haven't. Oh, and leave a comment if you've got something to say. Bye guys!